Click Paraplanning is the new group that has emerged from the formerly known $100 SOA Club. Joining me today to discuss the ins and outs of paraplanning and how it could be used in your firm is founder of Click Paraplanning, Nick Topham. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
So to start with, can you explain how paraplanning differs from a regular financial planner?
Certainly. So a paraplanner is essentially a member of the advisor's support team. So they're involved usually in more technical support. So, formulating strategies, product research, and creating technical documents. So that's the key difference between a paraplanner and an advisor, is that one gives advice and sees clients, one does more of the formulation and strategy work.
Beautiful. And so a lot of advisors are using paraplanning in their advice businesses to improve efficiencies and things like that these days. What's sort of the advice process in which they need the most help usually?
Look, usually it's you would bring your paraplanner in after you've seen a client, and after you've agreed on a direction for that client. So the paraplanner would then come in. They're going to help out with formulating strategies and throwing alternatives around. They're going to figure out what products, if any, the client requires.
Yeah.
And in the end, they kind of bind that all together into a statement of advice, which is the main advice document presented to a client. And really, that's how an advisor communicates their advice, essentially, is that advice document.
Beautiful. And more outsourced advice paraplanning services are emerging these days. What sort of things should advisors look for when looking for a prospective paraplanner?
Look, I think there's a few things that they should look for. The first, I think, that's really important is the ability to communicate. So, the actual paraplanning service has to be able to communicate to the advisor, and they need to be open to communication from the advisor. I think they need to be fast. So I don't think there's any point in outsourcing your paraplanning work if they do it slower than what you could actually do in-house.
Okay.
And I think it's really important that they do have a wide kind of industry, a wide range of industry experience, so that they can bring all of their knowledge together and in the end kind of actually enhance the advisor's processes and enhance the actual advice they're giving. Okay,
excellent. And are a lot more people outsourcing overseas these days?
Look, I have seen quite an increase in paraplanning services that are offshore. So that's fine. But what I think is a little bit more disturbing is that a lot of outsourced paraplanning services that started as onshore have kind of moved a lot of their stuff offshore without letting the advisors know where it's actually being produced.
Okay.
So there's a couple of issues in that, really. The first and foremost, I think, is with security.
Okay.
So basically, the issue is fundamentally you're paying someone overseas $3 or $4 an hour. And as a result of that, there is a much higher chance that they're going to mistreat your data, essentially. There was a case a few weeks ago where a call centre was allegedly stealing basically clients' data and on-selling that to an Australian criminal group. So that's a real issue, I think, with outsourcing. And the second issue, we spoke about before, paraplanning is becoming more and more a highly technical kind of role. And I'm just not sure that the ability is there in an offshore service yet. It is quite a technical and increasingly technical role in a financial planning practice.
So Nick, can you tell me what are the pros of outsourcing paraplanning?
Look, I think a big important part of outsourcing your paraplanning is basically being able to access skilled, highly technical workers when you need them. So instead of having to first find someone and then pay for someone and then have the administrative burden of actually hiring a full-time or part-time employee in your office, you're able to pick up someone when you need them and essentially access this much higher skill level without all the cost and administrative burden that you would normally have to have. In terms of cons of outsourcing, look, it's not that easy to find an outsourcing service. It's really important that advisors do their homework, that they find people who have past experience with this paraplanning service that they're looking at, make sure they've got the experience, and really importantly, find out where your plans are actually being produced. And make sure you're happy with that. We spoke before about offshoring your work, and fundamentally there's nothing wrong with sending work overseas. It's certainly done on a very wide basis in other industries. But as long as you know the risks involved with that, and you're happy with that, I think that's fine. But that being said, I definitely am in favour of basing it in Australia, and I think it's a much more effective solution. The services overseas may be slightly more cost effective. If you pay someone much less, obviously it's going to be more cost effective. But in the end, you have to kind of weigh that up, because you're probably going to spend more time fixing the work that comes back because it's not of the same quality. So it may seem more cost effective on paper, but whether it actually is another matter entirely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Nick.
Thanks for having me.